I grew up an Army brat, living all over the United States and all over Europe, moving every 18 months, meeting a lot of people, experiencing a lot of different cultures. You know, that culture shock became such it became second nature to me, you know, until I embraced the idea of culture shock. And so I suppose in many ways, the way I work, the way I deconstruct, the way I put so many elements together that create and conflate so many different ideas to make some larger, greater statement about evolution is really kind of about my upbringing and my life. So I guess in essence, in the end of the day, I'm an evolutionist.
How's it going? Tell me a little bit about what you've been working on and kind of how it relates to today. What makes it current?
Well, it's interesting when you ask what makes it current, because it's almost as if the election of Trump made my inclusion in this show critical, crucial. And I know it did play a part in Amber and Andrew's decision to include me, because as Trump comes in and creates conflict and creates division in this country on the level of immigrants and on the level of who's a real American, you oftentimes conflate that issue with racism, with sexism, with nationalities, with nationalism, etc. Who's a real American? And when I make my work, as I deconstruct the Confederate flag being something that's part of my family, as I use the term native or nativism, which is also a part of like the black experience in this country. You know, white people aren't the only nativist Americans. We were here as early as they were, at least, you know, in the 17th and 16th century. So I'm owning these cultural symbols and historic markers, like the Confederate flag, like the term nativism. I'm owning them because legitimately and historically I can. And secondly, by owning them as a black man, I'm disarming them in a sense. I'm deconstructing and disarming by saying, you're not going to use this as a weapon against me because I actually am a son of the Confederacy. You're not going to use the Confederate flag as a weapon against me to intimidate or oppress me, because I actually am a son of the Confederacy. You know, are you? We tend to teach and learn our history as if we've been handed a suitcase, and that suitcase says the Civil War, and you look at that suitcase and you're supposed to accept that that's the Civil War, and everything you need to know about it is that suitcase, or race relations, or women's rights, or our political whatever it is. It's like, here's the suitcase, that's it. And I'm like, no, that's not enough. Let's unpack the suitcase and see what's inside, dirty laundry and all. So I'm, in a sense, unpacking history when I make these works of art. And doing it with my own genealogy, my own family history is involved in all these. You know, for example, this document over here, this painting over here, actually, like Basquiat used Xeroxes in his canvases sometimes, I'm doing the same thing here. These are documents from Texas, which is a state that keeps rather good records in terms of the population, the documentation, people that lived there, their history. So Texas, in the state of Texas, here's my great-great-great-grandfather, who was a mixed-race man. He was the son of a slave master and the son of a slave. And he was mixed race. He was a colored man. But he fought in the Civil War, but on the South Side as a Confederate conscripted soldier. When Dick Holman died, his widow, Henrietta Holman, got a Confederate pension. Here's a black woman getting a pension from the Confederate organization, which is so surprising. Like, thinking back to today, you would think, oh, a black woman in 1925, this is in 1925, a black woman in 1925, the widow of a Confederate black soldier, would get no love, get no respect, get no pension, get no nothing. And yet, she's given a pension. So it's like, history is never what you think it is. To that truth, there were many wealthy blacks who had slaves in the 19th century. There were, and at a certain time in Louisiana's history, there were more black people who owned slaves than white people.
Which is something a lot of people don't talk about.
People don't talk about that. You know, there were Native Americans who owned slaves. There were Native Americans who were slaves.
And this is a really interesting piece because it just stands out. It's the darkest one, and from far away, it just caught my eye. What is going on with this?
This is part of a new direction I'm going in, which I'm using flock, which is like, you know, short nylon fibers, about 1/8 of an inch long to 1/4 inch long. If you touch this, you can feel it's almost like velvet. And what I do is I do the same thing I've done to the other ones. I build these letters up using layers and layers of gesso, sand it down, make it nice and smooth. Then I use a flocking device, and I put the flocking hairs go straight into the glue, like I coat it with glue, and then I put flocking on it, and it creates this texture that I think is rather novel. I don't see painters using flocking like this, and I just love the look and feel. It makes it so lush and rich, and because it's because it's many fibers, like sound, like light gets absorbed into fibers, and you just sort of get lost in it. And then I did this one down here. Also, this is all in the last couple of weeks. This is a white flock with black letters, also flocked with black flock, and then after I picked it up, a lot of the excess black fibers got mixed up into the white flock, which is very much like a statement about interracial mixing, about these are all individual cells or individual people in this country as humans, but especially as Americans in this country with such a complex and such a strange history. I see our history as being simply served to us like just packages. And I'm saying, no, I want to unpack those packages. I want to unpack that luggage that is American history. And that's what my work is. I'm unpacking history.